Hello, happy day 7. We are in the thick of it. So, we are basically one full week into the Rough Draft Diaries. And I have been making progress, but it's not that progress that I can point to and say, oh, I have that many words. And sometimes that starts to make me feel a little bit of anxiety. So, as I talked about in yesterday's vlog, part of what I'm going to do today is actually get a few solid things down on some index cards so that I can say, okay, these are the scenes that I'm going to write and understand and accept that it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be the final version. And it's okay for my writing to suck for a little bit. So that's kind of my mantra so that I can start getting words on the page. So today I have a meeting with Amber again to talk about 2025 plans in 1 minute. So I need to get going on that. Then after our meeting, I'm going to work on my story stuff. I also still have spectacular giveaways. I have the books to order. There's just like a list of stuff. So as soon as my meeting with Amber is over, I'm going to pull out my daily planner and just make a list of all the things that need to get done. I'm also streaming Silent Hill 2 on Twitch gameplay tonight. And what else? It's like a million things. Evie has soccer practice. There's just like it's never ending, right? So we just keep moving forward. We do the best we can and let's have a good day. Okay, so that was about an hour meeting and I did not record any footage of Amber's beautiful face, but what we're doing in this, I can't show you the document because it's got too many like financials and private stuff on it, but Amber is kind of my business mentor. I'm in a mastermind with her and some other wonderful ladies. And part of that is that I get to meet up with Amber whenever I need to. So we're pre-planning stuff and strategizing things for 2025. So what we did today was forecasted out my courses, my planner, my releases for next year, just kind of forecasting out all the work that I'm going to put on my plate for next year and how can I get support? How can I get more, hire in somebody else who has a certain set of skills that can help me execute this. I want to run some Kickstarters next year. So when do I need to get that started and kind of creating a game board. So this is something I talk about in my Your Path Forward course where, in HB90, for those of you that haven't been around in my world for a while, I have a system called HB90 that is really short-term planning for 90 days at a time. But that's only really a piece of the puzzle if you're trying to run a business as an author or an entrepreneur, because 90 days at a time sometimes doesn't allow you to plan out the longer things like a Kickstarter or a book release. You might not be able to do that all in 90 days. And so it can be helpful to forecast further out so that you can work your way backwards and say, okay, I need to be starting out artist outreach so I can figure out who's going to do the new covers for the Kickstarter and what features and what printer I'm going to use. I need to do that 6 months before I'm going to run the Kickstarter or 1 year before I'm going to run the Kickstarter, and kind of running with those numbers and looking at the schedule and trying to figure out when is the ideal time to start working on projects and, how can I, like, based on my forecast for next year, can I afford to hire someone new, or can I afford to add hours to somebody that's already helping me? Like, what can I do there? And thinking about, the money aspects of the business. And there's just so much that goes into it. And I'm excited for it, but I'm also like trying to plan as best I can for all those things that are coming up next year. One of the things that I really, really want to do is get back into writing full-time, releasing full-time. It felt so good to get The Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw out into the world and to see a top 500 at Amazon. And it was #1 in all young adult books for a few days. And that just felt so good. And it made me remember how much community there is in us all reading a book together. And I just have so much love for my readers and for the people that are picking up this book. And I have so much gratitude, and it gave me such good feelings to finally finish that book and achieve that and get it out in the world. And I had forgotten how that feels. And I want to feel that more and more. And I want to continue to really build community and positive spaces next year and just keep expanding on that, both here at Heart Breathings and with my readership, which I know some of you've read my book. So thank you to everybody that picked up a copy. It really it means a lot. I really appreciate it. So we're looking at my book release schedule for next year, the things that are currently in my series, like things that I need to get written next year, as well as A Mirror of Shadows and how that release is going to look. So just forecasting out all the planning things. And you guys know secretly I love it, but it also is a little bit stressful. Like, oh, how am I going to juggle all these things? So that's the key, is figuring out how I'm going to juggle it, but also make room for things like my Zettelkasten and reading more and spending lots of time with my kids. Andrew, my son, will be 13 in 2025. Plus, he's getting really good at baseball, and I want to get him into pitching lessons. Evie's getting into like soccer, and the more busier they get as they get older, the more I want to be able to make sure I'm supporting them 100% in their dreams, and that they know mommy is always going to be there for them. So yeah, all the planning, all the thinking through. If you've been interested at all in your path forward, or you took it already this year and want to see it improved, I'll be running it again this December. So December 7th, which is that first, 6th, 7th, 8th, which is that first weekend in December, we're going to do another live round, but instead of just a single day on Saturday, like we did it last time, we're going to do it it'll be a 3-day thing, and there'll be new videos, new resources. There'll be hopefully a Notion template and some other things to make it even better, because that's what I'm always striving to do with my courses, especially when I just taught it for the first time. I can already see ways that I can make it better. So be on the lookout for that. We'll be coming up that first weekend in December. And yeah, I'm just rambling, but it's almost 11. I have a lot to do today. So I'm going to sit down right now, and I'm going to write in my planner all the stuff that needs to get done today. And then I'm just going to start getting it done. I might put on some headphones and listen to music while I'm packing up giveaways, ordering books, all of that stuff. But let's take a look first at what all needs to get done. All right. So I have a list. This is me trying to limit everything that is on my list to a space, so that I can at least have some kind of limit to hold myself to, because there's just a ridiculous amount of stuff. And we also, obviously, there's some stressful things going on in life right now, and we have a leak in our ceiling that needs to be addressed. Hopefully George is going to deal with that, so I don't have to, but just a lot of things. So this will feel a lot better if I can get a lot of these giveaways, my books updated, start ordering books, ordering boxes and stuff that I need to send these out. Just let's get it done. The main story thing I'm going to do today is index cards for A Mirror of Shadows, so that I can start writing tomorrow. But it's a long list of stuff, so let's get it done. This work of organizing hundreds of paperback orders is hard work, and I do have an assistant that's working right now on sending out invoices and collecting payments and doing some of that stuff. But I also am working on some of the spreadsheets myself, and I'm the one who has to order the books, and I'm so grateful for it, but it's also tedious. So I don't really have a lot to show you about. Here's what I've been working on today. So just trust that I am working through these orders, and I'm going to start I'm actually going to go into the garage and see how many boxes I still have left over from last year so I can order those. So I've just been slowly working my way through my to-do list. It is now 1 p.m. George and I just finished eating lunch. I also made another cup of coffee, and I am going to just keep going at it. But I also know, and this is true for somebody, at least for me, as working from home, but also having both creative stuff, admin stuff, multiple businesses that I'm running, is that often I get into the weeds of this is the work, like the busy work that has to get done. It's important, but the creative work always takes the back seat, which is why I haven't had as many books published lately. So I am aware also as I'm working through this that if I want to make my writing more of a priority, it's not going to happen on its own. I have to actively make it my priority. And so I am aware of that. And I'm thinking maybe I should set a limit and say, I'm going to work until 3 p.m. And if this isn't all done, I'm still going to stop and take an hour to work on my book stuff, because if I don't, I could end up working till super late tonight and never getting to any of the creative work, and then days and days and days go by, and I just don't want that to be my reality anymore. So this is what we're doing, but I don't really have anything interesting to film other than I'm working in some spreadsheets. Moving right along. Coffee's almost done. It's 3 p.m., which I said that as soon as 3 p.m. hit, I was going to be working on my index cards, and I gave a whole speech about it, but I really want to try to get this part done before Evie gets home, which probably isn't going to happen at this point. It's 3:11. She'll be home in like 30 minutes. So I'm going to switch to my other office, and I'm going to update a couple of things in one of my paperbacks so that when I'm placing these orders, they're the best version of the books that they can be. So hopefully that won't take very long. You guys, we're not perfectly clean over in this house, and that's okay. So I'm going to be in this space. This is definitely one of the areas that needs to be tidied. So that is just going to go on another day. For today, what I'm going to do is just log in to Vellum, which is the software that I use to format my books. And then I'm going to fix those things, upload it to KDP, and then start placing book orders. We're almost there. I've gotten a lot of stuff done. I'm probably going to get maybe like half the things I put on my list for the day done, but that's half. So I'm good with that. And then we'll do index cards after. All right, I got my books updated. That is done. I've knocked quite a few things off my list, but of course, as always, I always think I can get more done than I can, but in some ways, maybe that's how I get as much done as I do. But I got a lot of the giveaway stuff and the time-based stuff. I'm going to be streaming on Twitch tonight. We have soccer practice, dinner. I've got about 50 minutes. So I think what I'm going to do right now is sit down with my stack of note cards and just start working on ideas for the beginning of this book. So the way that I'm going to do this, I showed you guys the other day, the structure of how I think I'm going to put the story together. Now I have to figure out what's actually happening. And one of the things I want to do pretty badly is sit down and figure out what are the big twists. But I don't have enough time in this 45 minutes or whatever to figure out the big twists. And I want to get work done that will help me start writing. So instead, I'm going to skip over that work that I know I'll do later. And I'm just going to set a goal for myself to fill out 4 index cards. And the way I fill out my index cards is exploration of the scene. So my scene cards tend to have the name of the protagonist, mostly because I write multiple POV. So I'm always writing lots of different characters. For this book right now, I only have one character. There might be more coming up, but to start out with, I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. So I'm going to start with this one heroine, main character. Then I'm going to write her name at the top, and we're going to start with what I think is the opening image. So I know first thing that has to happen in this first book is we got to be introduced to her normal world. And then she's going to get into a conflict with someone who is going to push her into the mirror, which is going to be the doorway into the new world. Now, typically that Act 1 doorway, like into the new world, would either happen as the inciting incident or it would happen as the Act 1 climax, depending on your story. Because I'm going to be serializing this, I need to get to that moment by the end of the first chapter. So for me, it's going to be the inciting incident. And the into the new world will have to become something slightly different. Although switching to the new world would make sense for an Act 1 climax as well. For this book, it's going to be the inciting incident. So I know that's going to be the first chapter. So when I'm filling out my index cards, I'm going to say character name. I'm going to give an overview of what's happening in the scene. And then I'm going to write down what is my character's goal in this scene? What is the conflict keeping her from achieving her goal? And then what is the outcome of the scene that leads us to the next scene? And usually when I'm plotting and trying to figure things out, this is going to evolve. So what I write down today might not be how it ends up, or might not even be recognizable at all of how it will end up by the time this book is published, but it's at least a starting point. And for me, I need some of those things that I can kind of grab onto. It's kind of like if I'm climbing a wall, if the book is climbing a wall, I need some kind of sticky fingers or something that can help me climb the wall. I don't know. That could be really stupid analogy, but I just need something to help me get started, even if it's imperfect. So I'm going to take 4 index cards and I've got a pen, and that's where we're going to start. So sometimes just being aware of what's going on in the story, what you want to happen in the story, and taking it out of your brain and onto the paper can be so helpful. So I'll just kind of share with you how this has already started to evolve, and it will change and grow, of course, as I start writing. I have the goal that I set was just to write out 4 note cards. What I think is going to happen, according to the structure, is I'm going to write 12 chapters per book. And so I started also this one because I didn't have my notebook in here of questions. So I'll probably just tape that into the notebook, like things that have come up that I need to decide. But so far, Bex is my only character. Rebecca, she's my witch that is a thief in the normal world for the Order of Shadows. And so we need to get introduced to her right from this first scene. So this is where we're looking at the normal world. We're also looking at the inciting event, and we're really also this particular first episode or chapter of the book, because it's a serial and I'll be reading it out loud. This is the hook. This is the setup of the book, which is happening a lot faster than it would happen in a typical novel sometimes, because you got to hook people in on a serial if you want them to come back and read the next one and the next one. So this scene that I see is her living out her normal life. She's supposed to steal an artifact or maybe a jewel or something for the Ruby Priestess, and then she's going to deliver it to the Citrine Priestess. And the goal then is to deliver this relic and get her payment. The conflict is she sees an old mirror in a very shadowy room, and if I decide to put this in the Citrine Priestess's house, she creates monsters out of stuff. So there might be monsters that she sees and that scare her into a room. And then she has a conflict with a rival witch who pushes her in and takes the relic to take credit for the theft, right? Then the outcome of this scene is that now she's trapped into the new world. Holy curse words. And I also want to make sure that the theme is stated here, which is her basically showing that she only knows how to rely on herself and that no one else is really trustworthy in her life. Now, as I started working on this one, there were a few questions that started to come up, like, where do they come into the mirror world? Like when she gets pushed through the mirror, is she in a castle? Is she in the streets? Is there a place where all the mirror people go? Like, I'm not sure. Who discovers her in the next part? Is it her love person? Is it the king? Like, who is that? Which priestess's mirror is it going to be? Is it the Citrine, or do I want it to be a different one? And then that also got me thinking about her status quo life, which is, what is her goal for life in the normal world? Like, if she had never been pushed through this mirror, what was she trying to accomplish? And really, a lot of times in this first few chapters of a book, you want to set up why your character is the person who needs to transform. So you want to show their flaws, you want to show the ways that they need to grow, the ways that they're not quite fulfilled or happy in their life, and the wounds they have and stuff like that. So I want to get as much of that into this first chapter as possible. So I started thinking to really make this as strong as possible, instead of her just being a really talented thief who is an orphan and was adopted by the Ruby Priestess to be a thief. It might be more compelling to have her be someone who is basically conscripted or like forced to work for the Ruby Priestess, but she was told if she gets this one last relic, this one last job, and turns it in, that they'll let her see her family, or they'll let her take care of her little sister, or she'll be able to go back and see her mother who's dying, like something like that. Or she'll be able to get a potion to cure her mother's cancer, and then they can be free of the order. Some reason why her getting pushed into the mirror at this moment is so devastating for her, and which was set up her goal for the whole series, which is I've got to get out of this mirror so I can save my mom or save my sister or whatever. So that is already, just from filling out this one note card, how the story has begun to evolve, how the stakes are getting played in, the conflict getting played in, how I'm going to set up the whole series. So that's the first one. And a lot of times I think in visuals, in images. And so I can see this image of her walking through the Hall of Doorways, which is a big thing in my Shadow Demon saga, going to this mysterious house, maybe walking through several monsters and getting scared. And then instead of delivering this all important relic that's going to save her family member, she gets pushed into this mirror and someone steals the relic from her and is going to take credit for turning it in. So she's losing so much right here at the beginning. Then scene card 2. This scene is first moments in the new world. So this is her reaction to getting pushed into the mirror. And this is the way scenes work in general, but it's specifically the way that serials work in my mind, is we have, this scene, and then there's this rising action that builds up to a moment of some kind of catastrophe, emotional moment, something like that. Then in the next scene, we have a reaction to whatever happened that ended the last scene. So the reaction is her first moment. She's scared. She's trying to figure out what's going on. Then she has a goal. I got to get out of here. So she's going to be searching for a way out, looking through the mirror. And the conflict is going to be, there's no way out. I also think there's going to be conflict here because we need to just keep the conflict going in a serial, that someone is going to discover that she's come through the mirror. It could be a set of guards. It could be the king himself. It could be any number of things. But I need to kind of think through that. So this is something here. I was like, who discovers her? It's a question that's come up. So then the outcome is that she's thrown at the feet of the king. And I put citrine in parentheses because I don't know for sure if it's going to be citrine or it could be emerald or it could be ruby. I'm not sure. Then I put this little note here, and this is where my visual stuff comes in. She sees the full city out the window. And obviously I didn't say this ahead of time, but if you're planning to come listen to this story, spoiler alert, I guess none of this is going to be like twists yet, but it's just in case you might want to skip ahead. But that is going to be a very visual moment. She's going to be threatened. She's going to be in danger, but she thinks that she's just inside a mirror in a house. And the king is going to laugh at her. And when he opens the curtains, she's going to be able to look down at the very end of this second episode and see the vastness of this world and this city that she's now trapped in. So that's a very visual dun, dun, dun kind of moment. And so then chapter 3, I think at this point, this is just very rough, but I think at this point, the scene is going to be that they take her to a room. She has some reactions to being trapped here. And maybe there's some conversations that will happen that will kind of ease up the tension just a little bit at the beginning of this. But then I think what I wrote, someone maybe takes her around to get supplies, because I know that there's going to be a little girl named Lavender that owns a potion shop that she's going to become close with. And I thought I was going to bring her in here in chapter 3, but I had another idea that there are these capture the flag moments. And so maybe in chapter 3 is where we find out that the king is like just throw her into the next match and she'll probably die. And then we'll be done with her. And so now she's going to be fighting for her life. So we get the stakes are constantly being raised. So her goal is to figure out how to survive here. She needs to get supplies. She needs to get training. She needs to figure it out. But I don't have an outcome because I just don't know it yet. But then when we move into episode 4, this is where we're going to pull in the potion shop. So this is the B story. If you're looking at Save the Cat scene, maybe this is the potion shop. Some reason she has to help Lavender. So I have this idea about a little girl who is maybe a young, I don't know, fae, or she could be a young witch, but I kind of want her to be something immortal, but she's stuck at this age forever, but I'm just not sure. Lavender has a little black cat, so I'm thinking we're literally going to save the cat here, that my character Bex is going to help Lavender with her cat, and the conflict here is going to be an emotional conflict, that she doesn't want to connect with anyone. She doesn't want to be emotionally connected, but she sees herself in this little girl for some reason, and she starts to feel some emotions, and this girl is so nice to her. Well, she runs a potion shop. She has all these potions, and so the outcome here is that Lavender gives her some potions that will help her in the capture the flag fight. So that's all I have so far is these 4, but hopefully by sharing that with you, at the risk of spoilers for those of you that want to listen to me read this later, it gives me a beginning framework. And so now I can take this and say, all right, how do I implement this? How do I move forward to the next piece? Now that I've got this idea that, oh, the king is going to throw her into this capture the flag very quickly in her journey, that to me immediately says, oh, that game, capture the flag game, needs to be starting at the end of episode 6 or something like that. Because if I'm going to do 12 episodes for this book, the end of episode 6 needs to be a big twist. So that could be the episode 6 might be the battle, the first battle, and then something unexpected happens during that battle. She finds out some kind of new information. She gets into more danger, something that changes the world a little bit. So that's already starting to give me structure for the entire piece of this book. So let me know if that was helpful. I know I've been kind of talking for 10 minutes, but might give you some ideas on how to get started. But those are the core things that I think about. 1, where does this fit into the overall story structure? Sometimes I use things like Save the Cat. Sometimes I'm using just 3-act structure. I use lots of different resources. And I do have a book about, or a video about my favorite books on writing. If you want to check those out, it's linked down below for you. And then I do scene overview. What's the goal? What's the conflict that's keeping my character from reaching their goal? And then what's the outcome? Then episode 2, what's the reaction to the outcome of the previous scene? And what now is going to unfold? What's her new goal? What's the new conflict? What's the new outcome? Then moving on. And with the serial, I'm trying to keep that motor going at all times, but I do give little moments here, like by chapter 4, we're going to have an emotional beat where she's going to make some real connections that will hopefully pull people in, not just with action, but with character transformation, like a hint that this character really is going to learn, like the theme says, to rely on people that are not just herself, and that there are people in this world that are trustworthy. So that's kind of my overview. And honestly, I think that's going to be it for this vlog. I got half of my list done for the day. A lot of giveaway stuff, a lot of spectacular prep. I did not get all my books ordered because I'm waiting for them to update in KDP, but I'll check in a minute to see if they are and try to order all those books today. And, got a little bit of plotting done. So no new specific words unless I wanted to try to count up how many are on here. Like probably, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There's about 40 words on each of these. So I could say 160 words. That sounds good. We'll say 160 words written because it is technically brainstorming words. And this month I'm giving myself credit for all the forward motion that I make. So 160 words today. I am still way behind where I technically should be, but I'm taking that pressure off and I'm just going to be focused on just making strides forward each day. Tomorrow's Friday, so you guys are seeing this on Friday. I do have a live stream on my Sarra Cannon YouTube channel at Sarra Cannon at 4 p.m. Eastern every Friday, and I will be live there today as you're watching this. So if you want to come join us, I will link that down below for you as well. And otherwise, I will see you in my next update. Let me know in the comments how your first week went, and I'm sending you all my love. Bye.